Well, I have to say, this is truly unexpected. I was sitting down here to record my recap, and I was going to share with you that I traded 3 stocks today. I'm green on all 3, but no big home runs. Our biggest percentage move today was 220% on a low price penny stock, and that had given me my biggest winner until we got a surprise afternoon squeeze. And this is really fascinating. If you recall, on Monday, GNLN in the afternoon squeezes up. And in fact, what time was it? It was 2:43 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today, at 2:43 p.m., you know what squeezed? GNLN. It took off, and I jumped on that momentum, and now I'm sitting here with a $10,000 green day. Unexpected, but I have to say, what a strange coincidence that it pulled away at the exact same time as the move on Monday. So let's go ahead and jump into this. This is our 1-minute chart here on GNLN. So you can see right here, the time is of this candle right here, boom, 14:43, so 2:43. All right, so that's when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this thing just blows through the high, squeezes, halts up, dip and rip, opens higher, goes up to a high of $21.80. This goes from $15 to $21.80 there in, well, basically 3 candles. It was in between halts though. So now let's go back to Monday morning or Monday afternoon. So on Monday afternoon, look at this. I'm not kidding. It's 2:43 p.m., the exact same time. What is the deal with that? I don't even know what to think about that. I didn't even realize that until after the fact. Someone pointed it out, and I thought, that is bizarre. I don't know. Some algorithm has a very specific time of day that it's pulling the orders, and all of a sudden, boom, these stocks are ripping. Because what happened here on Monday was all of a sudden it was like, the bid was, or the offer was gone, and a couple of orders go through, and boom, it's at $12. And then it dips down for a second, and then it's at 13. Dips for a second, it's at 14. But what was crazy was it would pop up to these high levels on the ask, like $15 on the ask, but the bid would still be, like $14.20. It was really wild. So anyways, this moved higher until, boom, we had the news right here that the company did a secondary offering, and it priced it at a ridiculously low price of $2.50. They raised $6.5 million. It was a private placement, and I have to say, the person who got those 2 million shares or whatever it was at $2.50, 2.5 million, they did extremely well because look at this stock. Now it's at $20 a share. It hit 21 today, almost 22. The company really screwed up, I think, on this one. Now, I'm not a CEO of a publicly traded company, so I don't know what it's really like. But what I can tell you is that they sold shares for $2.50 a share when the stock was trading at that time when the news came out, it was trading at $16. I'm sure they could have found someone else to buy shares even at $7 or $8 rather than just $2.50. But what was interesting was in spite of the offering at $2.50, it came back and it held right around this area. So you know what? This was one of the stocks I traded this morning. And when it started to pull away right here, that was where I took my very first trade. It was right around $11. And this thing squeezed up to 12 and up to 13. And I made about $1,000 on it this morning, but I had a close call. And that was actually when I initially called it a day. So you know what? We're going out of order here. Let's back up and let's start with the first trade of the day. Okay, so we're going to have to go all the way back here to 8:15 a.m. So I sat down this morning, I pulled up my scans around 6:45, and what I noticed was that there really wasn't anything that looked that great. I was pretty disappointed. We had a couple of stocks on the scan, but nothing impressive. So I came over here, sat down around 7:15, and when I first sat down, I saw BURU was a stock that had made a big move yesterday. So this was on my scans from yesterday on my after hours top gainer scanner. Now, actually, this scan is now reset for today, so you're not going to see it. But anyways, BURU made a move after hours yesterday, but I didn't see any news for it. So this morning when I saw it coming back up, I kind of was like, I don't know. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but it did pop up with some volume. And so I decided to jump in it right here. And this was actually, I'll show you on the 10-second chart, because this was a 10-second micro pullback. Okay, so right in here, I jumped in it right there. Boom. See how it squeezes up? It pulls back, and I got in on this pullback right here. So I got long, and it pops up here to 245, and that was enough for me to make about $400. First trade, made $400, broke the ice. I'm like, all right, good. I'm in the green, and that's certainly a start. But it didn't go any further, really. It kind of stalled out, sold off at the open, then it rips back up. Anyways, I didn't take any more trades on it. It was just kind of weird price action. But then ALBT hits the scans, and it's cheap. And I'm thinking, I don't know, guys. I really don't love trading these low-price stocks. But I also can't disagree that they've been in play the last few days. So it starts popping up right here. And it squeezed up. It sort of dips back down, 45 cents. It goes up to 47.48. I watched it right here, and I kind of thought about taking a trade at 47 cents. But I thought, it's going to have resistance to $0.50. It's only 3 cents away. I don't think it's worth it. So I didn't take that trade. It does have resistance at 50 cents. It pulls back here for a little bit. And I kind of thought, maybe I could take a trade over 50 cents. But I sort of talked myself out of it. And this was before I had broken the ice with any trades. This was at 7:45. So I hadn't broken the ice with any trades yet. And I just sort of thought, I'm not sure if this is going to work. Just feels kind of thickly traded. There's a lot of sellers at 50 cents. Well, it breaks 50 cents and it goes right to 55, 56, 57. And right in here, there was another pullback, but I said, no. See, I can't buy there. And the reason I can't buy there is because now we're getting close to the 200 moving average, which is at about 60 cents. I thought that's too close to the 200. We're probably going to have resistance there. All right. So I don't take that trade either. And it ends up pushing up here to a high, as you can see, of about 70 cents. But notice it does this little false breakout and drops here. So it pulls back. I still haven't taken any trades on it. And then right here at about 820, it rips up and it hits a high of, let's see, what was this? 75 cents, which is pretty impressive. So at that point, I connected this high and this high to create this ascending resistance line. It pulls back again, and when it comes back up right here, I got long, right there, 75 cents. I bought 15,000 shares, which isn't a very big position for a cheap stock like this. It squeezes up to 85 cents. I book $1,000 of profit. It pulls back. It pushes higher. It pulls back. It pushes higher. And when it holds right here, I add back at about 88 cents. It goes up to 90 cents right here, and I'm like, here we go. I'm looking for the break over $1 a share. I add at 95 cents. It hits 98 cents, and then it drops down. I held, and in fact, I added off of 90 cents. It then squeezes back up and drops, and I stopped out. I then got back in at 90 cents here, thinking it was going to hold support, and then it drops again, and I got out. And that was it for me. So I ended up peaking at about $2,000 on ALBT, and then giving back half of what I made on it. So I'm up 1,000 on ALBT, and I'm up 1,000 on BURU, and I was up about, I guess it was 700 on GNLN, which gave me 2,700 on the day. And that's where I was sitting. My last trade was, let's see. I took a long break today. So my last trade was about 10 a.m., right around 10 a.m. when GNLN was squeezing up to 11 and 12. And I actually had a close call there. So we'll go back to GNLN. Right in this area, it's squeezing higher, right? So it goes up to 11. I'm trading in this area. It goes up to 12, goes up to 13 right here. And it ends up halting, opening higher. And I bought at 14. It pops up to 15 and then immediately drops. And I took 4,000 shares on that entry right at 14. And it dropped here to 1350, and I was like, oh God. And then it rips up to 1450. I got out and I was like, wow, that was close. And then it drops back here down to 13. And I was like, all right, you know what? Walk away. That was too much size for a stock that's this jumpy. So I had a close call there and I walked away and I was done. It ends up curling up and going a little higher, but another jackknife there, another one right there. It was just kind of choppy. So I ended up doing other stuff. I taught a class for Warrior Pro members from 10 to 11. I had a meeting from 11 to 12. And I had another meeting. So it was back-to-back meetings from 12 to 12:45, another meeting from 1 to 2. And then I sat down here getting ready to record my recap. And I was pulling up my classes because I'm teaching the classes right now. So I was working a little bit on the slide deck here for the classes. So I was, chipping away at that. And I sort of saw GNLN here. And I thought in this area, I was like, it's above VWAP. It's kind of creeping back up. And I knew that the high from the other day was right around 2089. I think it was just it was just a little higher. It was 2180, 2146, something like that. So I kind of thought, if I knew we had to break over this level right here, the high of this candle right there, but we were above that. So when I saw it above that, I thought, this is interesting. Well, let's just kind of keep it on watch. So instead of recording the recap, I just kind of kept this on watch because I started to think maybe there's a chance I was going to trade it. And then all of a sudden it squeezes right here, boom, and it halts up at 1740. Holy smokes. It resumes at 19, squeezes up to $20.80. And then this is the crazy thing. It resumes from that halt and instantly halts down. Now, this was something that I was a little bit concerned about. So I'll show you the trade that I took on this. Let's see. So the trade that I took, I was sitting here and I was like scrambling because I was working on the slides to grab some shares right here at like 1660. I didn't get filled. I got nothing. It was just all of a sudden it's halted instantly. Within 10 seconds it's halted. So I was like, oh shoot. Okay, so now it's halted and it resumes. And as it resumes, it dips for just a fraction of a second. And I bought 2,500 shares at as it curls back up 1905, 1910, and 1915, right around there. So I'm adding and it squeezes right up to 21 and boom, right there. I made $1 a share on 7,500 shares. Instant trade within 10 seconds. So I held 500 shares into the halt thinking maybe this goes higher and I can add more. It ends up opening, it taps 2180, so double top versus yesterday's or Monday's high, and then it instantly halts down. I added at 1933 or so going into the halt down. It opens, it rips back up here up to 21. So I was like, okay, had the right idea there buying the dip. It dips back down. I add again off of 1850. It curls back to 1950, and I kept trading it in this range, but then it kind of ran out of steam. It tried to go back up here, but it wasn't able to break through new highs. And at that point I was like, all right, I guess I'm kind of done. And that was it. So, I'm really quite fortunate that I happened to be here this afternoon and was able to capture that $7,500 winner, approximately on GNLN, because I typically wouldn't be trading this time of day. But what was interesting here was look at the volume of these two candles. So this candle had 150,000 shares of volume. And this candle here had 250,000 shares of volume. So the volume was actually pretty light when you think about it. And what I did was I actually went back here and I said, well, how much volume was in this sort of move right up here where we were above 16? And I noticed it was about 3 million shares of volume. So that made me think there's 3 million shares of volume that traded up here. I wonder if we're going to need to get past that level. So if you turn on the volume profile here, you'll see that this stock naturally traded a lot of volume sort of in this lower price range. This is where it was really thickly traded on the previous day. And then in this area, the volume profile moves up. A lot of volume in this area right here. And then of course, today, just through today, the volume is actually similar. It's still sort of more or less right in this area. So this is our point of control line. Technically, we are still above it, but we're coming back down, holding the previous high. But I think at this point, I don't even know what to think. We broke the 200 moving average again, but then came back below it. So kind of these little spears here. Sometimes we would say those are sort of like little devil horns, which is, a bad omen. So don't really want to trade that. Clearly rejecting that level. Volume today, about 18 million shares. Not bad. I just don't know if we're going to get more out of it. It was possible that it was going to hold up here and keep going. I did check short interest on it over on Ortex, and I saw that The short interest utilization is 97.93%. I tried to borrow shares on GNLN at light speed, but rejecting no shares available. So there's no shares available of GNLN. Other traders were saying the same on their brokers as well. No shares available. They were super expensive on Monday, and now they're not available. Well, it's saying 97.93 of available shares are currently being utilized. So that's telling us there's not a lot of shares available to borrow right now. Remember, a broker has to find someone who's a holder of the stock to lend the shares out to other people. So anyways, it didn't seem like necessarily high short interest, but it did seem like perhaps hard to borrow. But the lack of high short interest sort of indicates that maybe we won't see a big short squeeze. Perhaps it's just momentum traders who have been buying it up, which is fine, but maybe, temper the expectations of seeing a really big squeeze up to like, $50 or $100 a share. Again, I say that, and it's also totally possible that we could end up seeing a huge move because, these stocks can be very volatile. It does have a low float, but they also just sold like 2.5 million shares through this, these warrants and this private placement. And my view on that is typically that means that company or the person who bought those shares can turn around and sell them at any time. So I don't think there's a lockout period for them. I could just double check that. I'll see if I can find it. It's not going to be that. So gross proceeds from that offer. Yeah. So it would take a second to kind of go through this. I'll just see if there's exercise. Yeah. So it'll take a little while to go through this. So I think at this point, we know that there is a risk of the company selling these shares. We'd have to go through this in more detail, and I can do that later. But nonetheless, so the float, is low, but with these new shares that have been issued, that's going to dilute the value, of course, when those shares get sold. And but I suppose based on the price action today, it's also hard to say because it wouldn't take a lot to absorb 2 million shares of selling. That would be about 10% of the volume today. So it's possible they've already been sold. I just don't know for sure. But in any case, that's GNLN. And that gave me the biggest winner today, which was nice to see. And ALBT end up pulling back by the end of the day. So penny stocks have definitely been in play. I do feel like, this may call for a dedicated episode on, my strategy for trading penny stocks, because generally you'll know that I don't like trading penny stocks. Typically, I leave these alone. However, having said that, it's hard for me to turn my back on clear momentum. And when things are moving and they're moving cleanly, I feel like I really should pay attention and try to capitalize on the opportunities. And so, I have been to a certain extent these last couple of days. The main problem with trading some of these lower price stocks is that my commissions get really high because I'm churning a lot of shares. I'm getting in, I'm getting out, I'm getting in, I'm getting out. So all of that means my profit margin, I guess, so to speak, is going to be smaller on these types of stocks. And, at the end of the day, that's definitely a consideration. I don't want to spend a ton of money, an unnecessary amount of money on fees and commissions. It just gets to a point where, when you kind of think about it, if you're spending so much money on fees and commissions, like let's say 50% of the profit is fees and commissions, then if you're also trading in a taxable account, you're paying, it's like the brokers and the government are making more money on this trade than I am. This maybe just doesn't make sense anymore. So that's something to be mindful of, especially if you're not using a commission-free broker, and I of course am not. So I may trade pennies again tomorrow. It's possible they'll be in play, and if they are, I'll consider them depending on, of course, how the setups look. But today it ended up being GNLN that saved the day. I do feel like this is probably going to be out of play, but who knows? Maybe we'll see what it looks like after hours. Right now, it's not doing much. We'll see what it looks like tomorrow morning pre-market. If it can get above $20, hold above the 200 moving average, maybe we'll get more action. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Of course, if the company puts out new news, that would be interesting as well, but I don't know if they will. So that's where I'm at today, $10,211.51, a green day. And, once again, just trying to chip away. Happy to hit base hits, but if I get something like that, I'm going to be grateful for that as well. So if you haven't already tried a 2-week trial, there's a link pinned at the top of the comments and linked in the description. So you could check that out and trade side by side with me for the next 2 weeks. During your 2-week trial, you get access to the chat, the stream, the charts, the scanners, everything here except for level 2. You don't have access to level 2 data, and you don't have access to the trading simulator. But you'll have access to what you see right back here, and you'll have my news feed and everything else too. So check that out if you haven't already. And I'll remind you that trading is risky. My results aren't typical, so manage your risk, take it slow. And I'll see you back here. I'll be streaming bright and early tomorrow morning for Warrior Pro members. All right, I'll see you guys in the morning.